Okay, so in today's class, we will check how we can configure the data raptor and Omniscript together, and how the data can be transferred from one data raptor to the script, Omniscripts. And then we will talk about the rendering conditions, like how we can add the rendering conditions, what are the best practices are there. And then we will talk about the merge syntax. Okay, so let's start with the same OS that we have created in the last class. So we also open the yeah, so data raptor is open there. Okay, before that, let's discuss one thing. Uh, let's talk about the debug statements first. So see, as of now, when this first screen is loading, there's no backend action that we are firing. So there is nothing in the debug panel. Okay, now let me type something and do the next. So the moment we do the next, you can see a server call get fired. So all the response that your data raptor is making into backend, it can be captured here. So you can see what request your data raptor sending and what response it is returning. So in the response, you can check this node is basically returned through data raptor and there is no error. Let's say if we are making any server call which violate any FLS settings or any data which basically has any issues, or in general if any exception happen in the backend, so it will throw this exception in this log. So you can also capture what exception it is throwing. So if error is okay, that means everything is fine and there is no such issue found into the system. This bundle will tells what parameter we are sending exactly. So here we are not sending anything because I think in the data raptor we hard coded the name. Okay, that's why we'll discuss this when we actually soft code the name and then we'll check how it is behaving. One more thing, there are some cases where you don't want to fire a data raptor automatically. Okay, maybe let's imagine a case. Let me close it. Let's imagine there this is a form where a number of fields are written. Okay, you're asking user to put any email, phone number, and all before they actually create an account. You want user to validate whether the username is existing or not. In that case, you don't want user to go to the next screen. You want them to do the same action in the at the same screen. So how we can use a data raptor as a button is very simple. You need to drag your data raptor inside the step. Okay, so this step basically nothing but a UI. And once you drag a data raptor inside the step, now it will be shown as a button. And I requested another hour. Hopefully by today I will get it and then we'll share the credentials. So see, now it is showing like a button, and how the name will show it is depends on what label you are making it. You can write anything here and the same name will be used here as well. So now you don't need to depend on the next screen. The moment you fire it, a action will be triggered. So let me show you. Okay, it is showing some exception. Let me clear the data. And then it will fire. And you can see now it is firing the data raptor. Why it was throwing the exception? Even you have dragged a element after inside the same step, but still the order of execution will be followed here as well. This name need to be filled before you click on it. Okay, if you're not clicking, that means it is violating the DOM rule, and that's why it is throwing the exception. So here the process of making and displaying, I mean making a server call and displaying the UI will remain the same how we have it in LWC and VF pages. Okay, so here first what Velocity does is it first load the HTML. Okay, after then it will fetch the data and then display it. Okay, so the first thing that let me write that it will first create how DOM basically work here. Create the HTML. Okay, and then fill the data. But this HTML part, before you make any action, it will validate whether all the rules that we have written on the top of HTML is following or not, because all those rules you can see like in the backend what velocity does it in this vf page, what velocity does is it maintain a id. Okay, and when you make any action, it first validate in javascript itself whether this action is followed or not. So once it is clear, once this followed that required things, that patterns, that masking and all, then only it will fire any action. That's why you can see it was throwing this exception, because all fields are required, and that's why it is throwing this error. Okay, we'll discuss about this again when we do the rendering condition, because in that case we need to reverse the process. We need to first fill the data and then display the UI, otherwise our rendering will not work, right? Yeah, now let me do it again. Now let's do one thing. Let's first configure our data raptor and make it soft coded. So let's say here we are making account name. We have created a variable and assigned this into this place. Now what is the expected behavior? This account name will hold the exact value, and then it will be passed to the query, and then it will do the action. Let's quickly validate that as well. Account name, and here we can type any account name. May. Okay, it is returning the valid values. Let me also do one thing. Let me go to the output and remove this account. I will tell you why I'm doing it. We will again follow the same naming, but as of now, let me do this. There's a yeah. I'm doing it intentionally because there's some exercise I want to show before we do that. Okay, fine. Now again fire it. All right, so it is now controlled through one JSON. Okay, there's no parent node as such. Now let's go back to our data raptor. Sorry, in OmniScript and configure our thing. So see, first thing is you need to put the data raptor name. Second thing is this part, input parameters. You need to click here. The right side, sorry, the left side of the screen will ask you which variable you want to bind. So in our case, we are passing this information through this variable, right? The first screen, which is the step, which is in step one, this value. So how we can pass the value? We just need to go and copy the element name, which is, like I was saying, this is the identity of this particular value. Whatever whatever value you put, it will be get stored inside this variable. Okay, now in the source portion, you need to put the same variable name. It will show you all available OmniScript variables. Okay, it will also show you the step one, which is this. It will show you the text, and it is showing the data raptor, and now it is showing the step two as well. In our case, we need to select the text. Okay, here we need to use the data raptor value. So what value we have used? We have used account name. We need to use the same exact value here as well. Okay, getting it? So left section is something which asks you what is the variable that you want to use, which you exactly use in your OmniScript. Okay, in the right portion, it is asking this value, which variable I need to assign. So this is the variable which is data raptor variable. This is the variable which is OmniScript variable. Now the value will take, now the user will input something on the UI. This will be captured inside this variable, and this will be passed to this variable, which is the data raptor variable. And here it will be used like that. So before we do any further configurations, let's verify whether whatever we have done is working correctly or not. Go to the preview. And here we need to type the name. Okay, we haven't configured anything. We can check whether the request is successfully happened in the debug log. Now, if you see, the response is returned. In the request, you can see we are sending the account name as this. Okay, so yeah, before we go ahead, any questions? Okay, so here the key concept is you need to, if suppose you're working on a project and you find that your data raptor is not working, so in that case you need to first check these variables names, they are valid or not. Second, you need to check the exact name that you're passing here should be the key here as well. Let's say if we have added multiple and conditions, in that case we need to configure all those from here itself. Okay, and if there's something that you want to there's no direct input that users are providing, maybe you are concatenating or you're using any users local, in that case also you need to use those values here. We'll discuss about this, how we can use those computations on OmniScript itself. Okay, but yeah, is this clear? Now let's do one thing. Let me show you the JSON and copy this JSON. Just remove this one, it is not relevant at that moment. So this is our JSON. Okay, all our information are tagged here. Yeah, let me clear it once. Yeah, this is the correct JSON. It was actually showing the previous JSON, that's why I was confused. Okay, we can remove this part. Now just observe that this is step one, and outside this step one, all the nodes are directly shown the results. Now let's say we want to display something inside this step two, like this time it is blank. Now we want to show whatever these values are returning to the users, because user will not go and check this thing inside the JSON, right? So in that case, we need to again go to the input, and this time we need to take care what is the exact type of the value that we want to display. Let's say this account name is text, so we pick a text box and display. Okay, and here let me clone it. We have 1 2 3 4 values. Okay, 2 3 4. Okay, all right. So the key here is whatever value you want to display. Let's say I want to display the account name. Just copy this value in the JSON, paste it somewhere and copy this, and use the same name into the element name. Okay, this needs to be the same. And in the label, you can use anything like name. Okay, same goes for other fields as well. Let me quickly configure those. This needs to be the same name that your data raptor is returning. And in the label, you can change it according to whatever you want to display into the UI. And why I'm copy pasting? Because this is case sensitive, right? So just don't want to do any error. I mean, on the in that part, it's better if you just copy this to avoid any human error. Like, okay, so what I have done is I have copied all the nodes, all the uh, keys of whatever JSON is returning, and I use those keys into the text fields. Now go and take the preview. You also need to clear the data first, otherwise it will not make any server call. It will cache those. Okay, just keep an eye on this side. The moment we define those fields, before we do the call, let me copy this and show you the difference. Previously, those account values have no parent node, right? But now since we use them, it is coming inside step two. Okay, so the identity of those is starts from step two. Okay, so that means this value is now child of this value. Why I'm saying this will tell you, but yeah, let me first show that. When you do the next, you will see all those values get pre-populated, and this value is now coming from data raptor. Okay, now this value is also get populated. Account name is something that we have not used, but still data raptor is passing You can check this into the data, into the debug log. Go to the response, you can see account name, phone, industry, and this city and account name. These are the values that it is sending. And here, if you compare this JSON with the JSON that is followed here, so all fields are there, but account name, account ID, it is not part of step 2, right? Can you tell me why this is not part of step 2? It is not part of step 2 because we have not used inside it. That means it will only show the values that are used inside the step 2. It will not show inside the JSON that we value that we are using it. Okay, clear? So if some value which is a free text, which is not part of any parent, any key which is not part of parent, you need to think whether do you want this value inside your JSON or you don't want this value. Okay, in most of the cases, like we have this practice in Apex class, we call all fields, right? We use as object query and we pass the object name and it returns the all fields. It saves some time and it also saves some lines. But here the concept is different. Here we need to only configure those fields which exactly we want. We simply don't go and blindly add all those fields. Why? Because it unnecessary increasing the JSON. The more JSON the data is get transformed from data raptor to OmniScript, the more time it will take. Okay, so we should always be careful what exact fields that we are configuring into the output panel, output this tab. Okay, that's one thing. Now let's talk about this. Here, if I go back and now I'm changing the JSON. Okay, this. Now keep an eye on it. It is changing its parent node. That's uh, that's quite possible in live projects as well. Someone will change anything into the JSON structure. Now our JSON structure is changed from data raptor. Okay, let's say it is a working project and previously this was the behavior and everything is working fine, but some requirement changes happen or something happened when the exact tree got changed. Now let's go back and refresh this and see whether it is impacting on UI or not. I'm not changing anything here. Okay, the JSON remains the same. Now you will see the values are not mapping, but the data is returned from the server. Okay, let me show you the debug as well. You can see the data is returned from the server, but nothing got displayed here. We are not capturing this information at this level, but it created its own tree. Can you tell me why this happened? It is, yeah, it is just a JSON problem. See, this is something that ideally will never happen, but in normal projects, we face such exceptions. So how we can handle that? In that case, we need to go to the step and verify. Let me again copy. Yeah. Now you need to make sure whatever parent node it is showing here, your step 2 should be the same parent node. Okay, because see, ideally how this view of page is working, it is mapping this. Okay, it is copying this JSON and verifying what JSON structure you have configured in your OmniScript. Okay, so let me copy that and show you how it is actually working. Here it is written this, but here it will check the name. Okay, and if I go here and copy this and pasting it here. So what it will do is how your this view of page is working, how they have written the code and how this is working is basically whatever JSON is written through your data raptor. So this is the JSON that your data raptor is returning. They are expecting the same path that you have created in your OmniScript. If they find a match, they will replace this value with the value which is written by here. Okay, if they don't find a exact match, they will simply add the JSON tree by appending this value somewhere. But it will show you in a JSON, it will show you when you actually explore your all JSON, but it will not show you where you want to use, because VF page doesn't know what mapping you have created for them. Okay, so in that case, we have to always make sure whatever return response is that your data raptor is returning and your OmniScript is returning needs to match. So how we can do the matches? First, we need to, now previously there were no parent node, right? So we directly configure these fields here, right? But now this time there's a parent node. In that case, we need to go to the step and change the element to whatever the parent node they have configured. Okay, this is the first thing we need to. Second, now we need to configure we need to configure the field bindings by replacing those values.
Is that has to be in the same order? Name, account, city,
No, no, no,
industry.
no,
Okay.
no. Order can
Can
be changed.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is also not required that all the fields that you have configured here should be the part of here. If it is not part, then it will simply show like outside this. Let's see that. Now, copy this. I think it will not let me copy now. Yeah, that is the previous JSON. Now let me clear the data. Okay, now you can check the step 2 is gone entirely. Okay, the step 2 is no more in the tree. Why? Because we have replaced this with account. Now there's an exact match. Account, there's a name, right? There's a account city, there's an industry, there's a phone. So that is the intention basically. Whatever return from the data raptor, we need to make sure it follows the same exact structure. Your data raptor is also returning this account name, account ID, right? But since we have not used this account ID inside this step, so that's why it is a free text. Okay, in most of the time we don't.
What if we include account ID into the account node and not use it on the UI?
Account node, you mean you want to add a field here
No,
for
no.
account ID?
Can you go back? Can you go to the data raptor?
Mhm.
Can you add colon to the account ID in the output JSON path? Account ID, account ID.
Yeah, I got it.
Now it is inside account, right?
Right, now it is inside your account. Still it will show outside, but this time it will show in a different way. Let me show you. Yeah, it will not display, but still it will be part of it.
Okay.
See, in generally, we don't use any ID inside any loop. Let me tell you why. See, your ID is something which your user will never see, and they actually don't care about it. So if we want to use this ID, we need to go to the account and then we need to access this ID. If it is a part of a free text, I mean, if there is no parent involved in the ID, we can directly access the value of ID, right? So for our ease of use, we didn't include this ID inside any tree. Okay, it will be additional step. In that case, let's say I want to access this ID. Now I need to write this. I need to do this and then I need to do this. Okay, now there's a dependency on this as well. Now if something got changed, I also need to modify this thing. But if it is outside the any parent node, I can directly use this somewhere as well, right? So This is some preferred way that user follow. We don't append ID inside any tree. If it is no, if it is necessary, then we will use it. But in most of the time, it will be like that only.
Even if it's a list of accounts, then also you don't put the account ID inside.
Sorry.
If it's a list of accounts.
If it is a list of account, then obviously it will be inside it. But in most of the cases, your parent will always be outside it. Let's say this is, in our case, this is one account, right? We have not used inside any list or something. In that case, we will use it outside only.
True.
Okay, but let's say we added contacts and we want to also show the contact inside it, then obviously it will be part of inside of a parent. Otherwise, it will always get overridden, right?
Hmm.
Now let's do one thing. Oh, let me go here. Yeah. Now let's do that. Here we have used the clear the data. Whatever we have done is something which is existing in the account. I mean, whatever we have searched in the account, it is already existing to the Salesforce. Let's say that's how it will behave if we add a random text. Okay, simply it will not return anything here because nothing get returned from your server. If you are seeing this type of behavior where nothing is returned from your server, you first need to verify what exactly JSON that it is returning into the Omnis script. Okay, then you will go into the debug and check what exactly message it is returning. Okay, you can see there is no error, but no response as well. That means then you will go and verify what account name you are actually fetching it. Okay, this way we will do the debug. First thing, we will go and verify what JSON is written into the Omnis script. If there is any value, like if there is any value here, that means the path is not correctly. The mapping of the fields have any issues. We need to fix that way. If there is nothing inside this JSON, that means there are two possibilities. One is the dynamic variable that we have configured here, input parameters, either they are not configured correctly or the input that users are sending, that is not valid. Okay, in most of the cases, whenever you deal with this situation, you always have a alert or a screen which tells user that if there's no data returned through server, they will show a message that no data return or something, no record return, something like that, so that they are also aware that uh, whatever query, that whatever search that they are making, it is blank and nothing is written from the server. So let's configure the same option here as well. In that case, we need to first go to the display and use this headline. Okay, drag it inside it. This headline is nothing but a element which handles the text part. I mean, if you want to show any heading or any message or anything, so we use this variable because it support the rich text. Something we can also add entire note or any notification if we want to display to the user, or any text that we want to display to the users. Okay, in our case, we will use that. Yeah. Okay. Can also make it center. Maybe highlight the color to red. Okay. All those configurations basically you can do. Okay. This we can do. Now we should only visible this text when there is no value, right? Now let me tell you that here there's an option you will see in the condition view, if statements. Here we need to add if yeah. let's say if name equals to null. Okay, those things we can use. If name equals to null, then display it. And for that, we need to just use the reverse condition. If name does not equal to null, then display this. Same goes for here. If name does not equal to okay, does not equal to. Now what we have done is basically we have added a condition inside this, which is conditional view, which will be used as a if condition. Okay, if this condition is successful, then only this will show. If no, then it will not show. Similar ways, we have added this condition here as well, what we want to show display to the user. Now let's go there and clear that. And now let's add a random text and string. You can see it is displaying this value. Let me clear it again. You will see still it is showing this value. Okay, why this is happening is because in DOM there is always a thing which basically what it does, it will first load the HTML part. Okay, after then it will load the data. So the moment when it is going and verifying this condition, it is always display the UI elements. Okay, and after then we are feeding the data into it. So this rendering condition will never work because it has no sync. When there's no sync, we need to configure a method which actually says you need to first load the data and then the HTML part. So how it will work, basically you need to check this checkbox, okay, for all the condition that you have used. And this is very important. If you are basically dealing with the data, especially data part, and you have a dependency on a valid data, then wherever you use this conditional view, make sure you check this checkbox. What it basically does, it will not render the UI. It will first wait to display the server calls. Once all server calls made, then only it will create the HTML part, and based on that it will render the condition. Okay, so make sure you always check this checkbox whenever you use the condition view. And why they have given it separately? Because in most of the cases, there may be a situation where there is no server call happened. We'll discuss about it. There are some uh, configurations or some computation we can directly do in OmniScript. There is no involve of server calls or data raptors or integration procedure are required. Like you remember in Visual Force and LWC and Aura as well, we have option where we can directly use JavaScript and do the computation, right? Similar ways, there is also some option, there are functions, we will discuss about it, how we can use those user locales and some values. Based on that we can do some computations. If if you are adding a condition that doesn't require any server call, then you don't need to check this option. But again, if there is a server call required, then always we need to check this. Okay, then only it will work correctly.
If that's the case, I think, here you can see, first is step one. After that, it executes the data raptor. Then it should go to step three. That means account. In that order, it
Mhm.
is not going. It try to run the step one and step three first. Then
No,
it
no, no.
parallelly try to do the account server call.
No, no, it is doing the same order. It is going to the step one. It is then making a server call, but it is not waiting for the server call to return the response.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
it is running on the same call, but before it return the response, it displayed the HTML.
got
Okay,
it. Yeah, it's asynchronous call. It's try to do
right,
everything.
right, right. Yeah.
Can you click on server column?
Mhm.
Okay, we are seeing some remote timeout here, 3000, 30,000 ms. Even if we increase something, then it won't work.
It will work. I mean, you can increase this up to the cell source governor limits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Based on that, you can do that. And why they provided us an option is basically to not increase it, to decrease it, frankly speaking. Why? Because the same example I was discussing in the last class, let's say your data raptor is doing any action that is doing any apex call. Maybe in a formula they have integrated apex call, and that apex call is not optimized and it is taking more than usual. In that case, we don't want user to wait and wait for the server call and show this spinner. So that's why they provided us with this option where we can actually reduce the time, and if this is less time, then we can show any, we can basically uh, block the UI. Instead of blocking the UI, we can display any error messages, and that's why it is also easy for us to debug which data raptor or which actions get expired. So that is why we basically use it. You will not see much difference in this UI, but when you work on a real project, when you are actually making different calls, you will use one integration procedure. But see, it is also not always possible to use to handle all server call in one action. Why? Let's say you added a server call here, and after step 2 you need users. Based on user selection, you also, and then again you need to make a server call, right? In that case, you have to split your server calls. Okay, maybe after then you need another server call. So in that case, we have only one option left, which is to reduce the remote time actions by reducing the maximum number of time that we are allowing user to make a request. So you can say, if I want to relate this with Apex, you can say this is something which is timeout, where you actually define that after this we need to do the timeout. Okay. If you worked on VF pages, there is a VF remoting, right? This is the same concept that they are using. They are using VF remoting to make all server calls, even for a simple SOQL query as well. In that case, since it is a VF remoting, that means ideally it is working like an integration. So there is a concept of timeout as well. That's why they provided us this option.
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Yeah. Now let's do this. Okay. When you do this, now it will not show. If you clear the data and make a random thing, then it will show. Okay. But there's a problem actually. Again, we have to do so many manual steps here. Like we have added the same condition here. We have added the same condition here. In all the places we have added the same condition, right? So to avoid this, what Velocity does it introduces a block which you will find in the grouping groups. This block, you can directly drag this block, and inside the block you can let it save actually. Yeah, inside the block you can move all your conditions, or I mean all your nodes. Okay, and there you can, instead of writing those conditions into individually to each and every element, you can write this condition directly here. Okay, just check this checkbox, and whatever we have written here, we can remove it and directly use it here, like account name does not equal to blank. Okay, in that case it will automatically fetch those values for you. You don't need to hold it. Okay, let me also remove it. But still you have option where if you specifically want to add this, you can anyways go it and do that. And if you just look into the structure, wherever this eye icon is there, that means there is some rendering involved. Okay, you need to go and check the conditions here. Conditional view or statement, something is written here. That's why it is showing in that view. Now if I go, Okay, this will work like that only. There is a change into the structure, that changes are acceptable. Okay, whatever changes in the structure you are doing because of your OmniScript, that is acceptable, but they should have at least parent node whatever you have in the data structure in your data raptor. Okay, so it is your Omni script VF page and Apex classes are actually intelligent to understand that this block 2 is a block element. So if even if it is adding its own parent, but still it will verify and validate, okay, this is something controlled via account. So you always, I mean, here you don't need to take care about the exact structure. Okay, that's why I added this to display that here as well. So this structure parent needs to be at least parent needs to be there into the tree. And if you're adding any UI element into the your OmniScript, then it will take care about it. Okay, but make sure at least parent should be there. Now I pause for any question.
Just for curiosity, if while querying, if we get more than one result, will it break, or will it take the first item?
So whatever we have discussed here, it will only take first item. Okay, there are options. I mean, the list view to handle the list is a different thing. In the tomorrow's class, we will check when we actually call all the contacts associated with this account, and then we will check how we actually list out. I mean, how we will handle the list. There are two options. One, we can display it in a table. Second, we can also repeat those blocks. Okay, but at whatever configuration that we did, if the account is returning more than one record, it will only show first one, whatever in the first list. Okay, now yeah, now the second thing is let me clear the data. Let's use this and do the next, and it is throwing the exception. But in most of the cases, there are scenarios where you also want to say no record found, please check your input, and then you actually display whatever user has entered. Right, that means whatever they use inside this text, we need to use the same here as well, right? So this is something which is get controlled through merge syntax. What we need to use percentage. Inside this percentage, we need to copy the name of label name and then add it. Okay, so see, but now, yeah, let's first display this and then we'll discuss about further things. Okay, now it is displaying whatever user has input. But now you may ask why we use this merge syntax here, why we don't use this merge syntax uh, in anywhere in the rendering conditions, right? We directly use name. So see, the answer here is wherever you feel that you are dealing with a text. Okay, because see, this is nothing but your text section where you write your free text. Wherever you feel that we are dealing with free text and we want to refer any variable, okay, in that case you need to use this percentage in OmniScript. I'm not talking about other uh, pages. We will discuss about when we reach to those other pages. But in OmniScript, wherever you want to display any variable value, you need to use this percentage. We call it merge syntax. Okay, if let's say you want to add any combination of name and let's say in the real scenario, name, email, and phone number, these three things you want to merge it together and display it here, then there are two options. First you can directly use this and then add percentage, add here whatever your variable name that is stored here. Okay, this. The other is you can also, instead of creating this, of writing all those things, you can create a variable for those as well, for all those merge syntax or any other computation which you want to do. Maybe you want to separately make a call, and that call, whatever return you want to display that. So all those things we can also do in OmniScripts itself. Okay, we even don't requiring any Apex call or any data raptor integrations. Those small changes, I mean, in short, whatever we can do in JavaScript, we can do here itself. Okay, there's something called set value, which is actually very powerful. So why I'm introducing the background, because maybe in the next class we will talk about set values, where we actually do all those small computations which doesn't require any server call or any backend action. All those things we can directly do. So there are options where we can create those variables as well. Okay. Any questions? The other thing is where why we haven't used it here in the rendering part, because this is something directly expecting us the value of the variable. Here we cannot add any string, right? Because we are why should we add any string here? We can add a string in the right side, but we can't add a string into the left side. That's why it is obvious, right? We don't need to use merge syntax. Cool. Any questions? Okay, so those are the topics that I want to discuss. Now I wait for any question. Here, if I talk about interview questions, people may ask you how you can reduce the rendering. Let's say if I have created a form and in that form there are 10 fields and I want to display those 10 fields only when some values that we have queried in the data raptor is thrown. So in that case, you can say we can go to the groups and drag a block. Inside the block, we can add our condition and check this checkbox. Okay. The next thing is people say how the DOM will work in OmniScript. What is the DOM structure? So the DOM structure is very similar how ECMAScript 5 support. So since it is a VF page, so, no, ECMAScript 3. So since it's a VF page, it support this ECMAScript 3. In ECMAScript 3, we first load the HTML, then we load the data. Even in 5 as well, you first load the HTML and then the data. You will see the same problems in Aura as well. When if you are making any server call and your data is not coming properly and it displayed the section, even you added a proper if else conditions. In that case, we need to use the promise functions, right? So here it is quite simple. It will also do the promise functions, but it will block the HTML part, right, by doing the promise functions. Okay. Those things I want to discuss. You can also do one thing. Now we have more than one element. Now you can use this with controller and check how we can control it. Okay.
Now available for prefill checkbox is hidden within the inner element. Why can't we remove that and keep it for the block? I mean, I'm just asking, is that possible?
Yeah, right. It's not even required. If there's no condition, we don't need to actually check this. I forgot to do that, but yeah, it is not relevant. It's only have its relevancy when there is a condition.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And yeah, now let's say we want to display all of those 4 fields into one, then we need to go to each of the and make it 3. Okay, now if you go to the preview, okay, they will view in one single line. So those type of small UI element changes we can directly control using OmniScript. There's no dependency of any third-party control or CSS. You will see this HTML template, right? This is the entry point where you can actually do the CSS part. We'll discuss about it. It will list out all those templates. And let's say if we don't want to display like this, we want to display it some different way or some rich text. or something else as well. In that case, there's no much option that Velocity gave in terms of UI. They simply provide us this HTML template ID where we need to actually create our own template, and then based on that we can display those things into the UI. We'll discuss about it. One more thing, actually, this is also interview questions. People will ask you how you Velocity, how you can control the next button, and why. I mean, why in which scenario it is working and when it will not show. You can see this next button. We haven't configured this. It is automatically coming. Why it is coming? Let me show you. Let me deactivate all those step flows. So you can like in Apex class B can comment out. So here you don't need to do that comment out or anything. You just go click here and then uncheck this active option. In that case, it will not work and it will grayed out like this only. So now if you do the preview, you will say there is no next button. Why? Because there is no active path up after step one. Even if I active this, you will see the step button, next button will be activated. Okay, the next button is now activated. If I write anything and if you go, it will directly lead you to the next page, next step. So the behavior of previous and next button is something which is controlled by Velocity itself. Yes, you can change the behavior of next button as well by introducing any data raptor, like how we did that. We after step one and step two, we drag a data raptor. Now whatever action that data raptor is doing, it will be performed through next button. Let's say if we had it here 5 actions, all those 5 actions like PDF generation, remote action, HTTP action, all we have added 5 elements here. So all those 5 elements will get triggered when user click on next button. Okay, but if you want to change the behavior, you want to add a separate button or somewhere between the UI, then you can drag it inside the step. Now it will be shown as a button if I activate it. Like I think I already demonstrated that. Okay, so that is also a question, like how we can control and how we can break this into two part. So answer is, if you want to control how you want to display it, you can simply drag it inside the step. In fact, you can also drag it after any UI element. So this will also treat it as a UI. You can also control the bit directly from here. So it will be automatically shown like that on. Okay, this will be like this only. If you want to make it center, then there's a HTTP something which you need to do. Yeah, HTTP template ID where you need to control it, and then it will be automatically control the CSS part. Okay, so those are the changes or something that I want to discuss.
Is that the user will get annoyed by adding more clicks?
Mm,
Like, we know that, certain action can be done background. For example, after taking the input, the email notification sending and PDF generation, those two things can happen simultaneously or in parallel without any user intervention. So for
right,
each
right.
action, if you ask the user to click, will he get annoyed?
Obviously he will. So that's why they provided us a option to directly drag it outside the step. So in
Okay.
that case, they just need to click on next button. And if you configured 5 actions here, let's
Hmm.
say I have used email action and let's say I have used PDF generation. So all those 5 actions will get triggered on one single click. So,
Okay.
so in a UI, you will only see this screen. And when I do the next, you will see the next screen. And between them, all those 3 actions will get performed.
Got it. Yes. I
Okay.
thought, for each action we are using the next. That's why I read.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Yeah.
Next button will simply check for the next available UI element. So
Next step.
after this, will yeah, next step. And between whatever backend elements you have dragged, it will be get performed, and the sequence will remain the same. This one will
Got
fire first, and then. Eh, and all those things you can track in the debug mode. When you actually do the debug, you will see three backend actions get performed after each next button,
Yeah.
because we have added the 3 elements here.
Got it. Yeah.
And do we Anytime do we need to get a requirement asking for jQuery, maybe on change or on KF?
On change, yeah. So see, those things we can do with the help of this HTTP email template, because there is option to fire the JSON. But I prefer you not to use that. Why? Because it will be little slow and laggy. Because why I'm saying this, one thing you are doing, you're also asking your data raptor to do those all actions, right? You have already configured a UI, I mean any changes here. At the same time, you're also firing an Apex class, which may be unnecessary, right? You have installed a package, your company is paying for this package, then why you are actually depend on the basically on any Apex class and all.
Mm.
Okay, so that is something you can tell business like, but yeah, natively there is no such option where you can do on change directly through any drag drop tool. But yes, customization is available. They provided us this option, HTML template ID. There we can do all those things.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I was also, when I was actually new, I also wondering if I can add any, uh, uh, is there any shortcut or is there any easy fix to make any on change event? But yeah, this is something not possible here because they configured all those things to reduce the server calls. Right, and basic things that whatever we can do in the JavaScript we can directly do here, it's not a problem. But server call is a little tricky if you want to do it on change. We'll discuss about it how we can, like if I'm following this and it is not meeting what I want, so I can directly use regex here. There is option to use regex, and if based on some action we want to perform any JavaScript related concepts, we can also do that using set values. We'll discuss about it. But yeah, if you are asking to fire a Apex class, that is a little tricky.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood. So just okay now, like for example, we want to call our account server call on change. Is it possible?
It is possible, right? It is possible, but it is not recommended way, because you can do all those things with the help of data raptor, but and you can't fire data raptor on change.
The problem they may come, we have to do a click on next button to get that, right?
Correct, correct. Right. There's a dependency on next because this is a form. And
Okay.
if you want to uh, see whatever we are discussing in OmniScript, it is nothing but a form, right? If there's something which is more complex in UI, there is a something which is called I think it is there. Mm, we'll discuss about it. I'm forgetting the name.
Flexible.
No, actually there is a different thing. I just forgot the name. Cards, flex cards.
Okay.
So if we need to deal with, see, this is nothing but your form. You have some fields, you have next button, you are doing some DML operations and all those things, right? But if you want to, let's say you want to hijack the account detail page. Let me open an account. Okay, let's say this is the account. And you're not happy with this UI. Okay, and you want to display another UI and you want to make it handy. Let's say the project is for customer support. Wherever someone calling you, you instantly need to verify the details. Let's say this is a banking project where we are asking user to first validate their date of birth, their last four digits of the numbers. When those things are validated, then only we can assist them. If this is the case, we have to configure these flex carded. There's an option on a button click on change events. You can configure. Based on that, it will simply route you to that page which you want to assist with.
Okay.
That's a different topic, but those things we can't do here.
Okay. In OmniScript, if that cannot be done, they have to rely on this next button itself.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? What I'll do is I have already actually requested for another org. I'm just waiting for Salesforce to revert anything on it. Once it's done, I will ask them to trigger the mail and you guys can access both of the orgs. We will see if we can move whatever we have done into the next org. I will also try to do that. Or what I will do, I will, but the move part is the deployment section. And what I will do as of now, I will manually move everything to that org. And when we discuss about the deployments, I will probably create another org and then we'll follow those things. Okay. All right. Let's break for the day, and maybe tomorrow we'll meet again and discuss both other topics. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.